thank you very much to all of you. Good afternoon, morning, or evening for everybody. It is very good to be back with you all for this webinar. I'm sure we will have another good day discussing tern and seabird conservation in the next 1.5 hours. Yesterday, we have a very fantastic presentation from Simba Chan about the Asian Seabird Colony Registry, and it is a very important work for us, and also probably a new initiative for Asian seabird research. And also we have a wonderful panel discussion from Angelique of the Philippines, from Dr. Miriam Kim of Korea, and also with Nicholas of Australia. And then we have a very complete coverage on about the seabird work. We know now, we know more about the information gap, the challenges, and also we have a little bit of a plan about our future action as well. So let me recap some of the important points from yesterday. Point number one. We need update our information and knowledge of seabirds in this flyway. Yeah, that is important. That's what we are doing now. Second point is that we care about birds. We care about birds very much, but we also need to care about the sites. I think this is the way for us to work on the conservation. So remember birds and their sites. And then the third one, we also need to see how to better engagement of the local community and also our younger generation. Yes, yesterday we need the assistance from the local helper, but also we need to see how we could continue our seabird research, our conservation in the future. So yeah, all of us will step down one day, but we need more and more young people to join us to do what we could do, to see what we could do for the future. And also, we all know seabirds can cover a very big geographic range from their life cycle. And our target group today, the terns, are the best examples. Yeah, we have Aleutian terns breeding in Alaska, and then pass through East Asia, winter in Southeast Asia, but they also has been found recently in Australia. Yeah, you see, they are amazing. They can cover many areas in this earth. So yeah, it means to us that they are connecting all of us together, and so their protection need all of us to do together. And today we have 7 different topics about terns. Yeah, we could see species from Arctic to tropic, from full migration to local movement, and then we also cover the topics with common species and also to critically endangered species. We also know many terns are using marine environment. Some are using the coastal, but we also show you an example of how the tern using the freshwater habitat as well. So I think, yeah, I'm sure we have a very good coverage of the to the showcase of the conservation projects in this region. Yes, we want to raise awareness of the tern to everybody here, and also I hope you could do the same to your next work as well. Okay, so maybe I just cut it short, and then to start our session today. Okay, so we go to the second session about the premier screening of a video, terns operation. Yes, we'd like to share with you of this short video now. It is I think this is the first show of this video. This is about the international collaboration of tern research and conservation project, which involve Indonesia, yes, Hong Kong, United States, Japan researchers, and this link up the Australian, Indonesian bird, and also to the Australia now. Over. 準備 over.
Yeah, whenever he's ready, go for it.
一勁你 OK 準備可以預備你可以嚟啦。
We don't know much about this tern. One of the rarest seabird in the world. It was presumed extinct. It was rediscovered the year 2000.
So we spent our first day in the field here testing the trap and training the team in how to use that trap.
Okay. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, testing. I'll fire it from here, and then we'll continue to back up a little bit, and I can fire it again. 3, 2, 1. Great.
We then gave it some time to see if birds would come to the sandbar, and no birds came the first day. Not completely unexpected. Birds are quite intelligent, and they recognize when something has been modified or when there's something strange. We had birds fly over the first day and look at the sandbar, and it seemed like they wanted to land, but it seemed like they were confused or nervous about the presence of the trap. In the following days, what we implemented was eliminating the other places where birds could land and rest. We took a very low impact approach, but basically we would just have people walk out into the water around them. The birds would not be comfortable with a person walking up to their rock. They would get up and fly and look for a different resting place. Many of the birds took another look again at the sandbar.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Good job. Okay, to come on turn landing.
As the tide came in, they moved closer and closer to our trap. We're sitting in a boat in the water just a short distance away from the sandbar, watching very carefully to see if birds are in the right position. And as they get closer and closer,
Ke arah maju.
we get more excited and more nervous, and and so we have to remain calm, be very careful about where birds are. We need to make sure birds are in the capture area. We need to make sure that birds are in places where their safety is assured. Communicate well with the team so that everybody knows the net is going to be fired very soon, and knows what their responsibilities are when it's fired. And then once we have all of that in place, we're ready to go ahead and fire.
Whenever he's ready, go for it.
一勁你 OK 準備可以預備你可以嚟啦，呢度。
We're focused on the conservation of Chinese crested terns, but there's very few of them, and so we've been very cautious about handling them, and it's also very difficult to isolate and capture, one or just a handful of individuals in a group. So we have chosen to tag a very closely related tern species, the greater crested tern. But they're so closely related that they can actually interbreed They often nest together in colonies, and so they have a lot of the same habits. Here in Indonesia, they spend time together just as they do when breeding. So by seeing where greater crested terns go in Indonesia and the kinds of habitats that they use, we can learn a lot about what terns and seabirds in general need here in Indonesia, and what resources, what kind of food, what kind of safe roosting places are important. And if we work to protect those resources for greater crested terns, we'll be protecting them for Chinese crested terns and other seabirds as well.
I live in Seram Island. This bird we never heard before. We just know as a chamar. Chamar is mean like all the terns or gulls. We just say that chamar. I really hope that this project will be continued for the future. Maybe making socialization to the local community or to the school or something like that. Will awareness, and also will know that this place is important for the critical bird.
This place is going to be established as a marine protected area, and we have tagged several greater crested tern. Data of the satellite tracking of these greater crested tern will guide us to find the best place for finding other wintering Chinese crested terns. Establishing a protected area is not enough. I hope the local community will accept the conservation work and have a sense of ownership towards the environment. They have to feel proud of this, and they should be giving a bit of benefit from this protection project. And that's the reason why we would like to raise the awareness of conservation amongst the local community. We would also like to explore other possibilities of management work of the site, including some well-planned ecotourism. And I believe it will be beneficial to the local community, and it will get more people to support the conservation of Chinese crested tern and other seabirds in Indonesia.
Thank you very much. Yes, I hope you all could enjoy this film. We want to show you, international cooperation is very important. So we make this video to show this film. And also, I'm very, very delighted to have the photographers here as well. He joined this session. So, wow, thank you very much. You've done a great job for us. Yeah, thank you very much, Ken. And also, I like to have we need to do two things before we go to the next session. First, I forget to mention about myself. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Tung Yu, Director of the Hong Kong Bird Society. I am also the coordinator of the EAAFP Seabird working groups. So our groups has number one aims to promote international collaboration of the seabird research and conservation activity. So this event is one of these. So I hope all of us can join us, and then we could have more and more chance to work together in the future. Second thing, I'd like to deal with all of you together now. Please turn on your camera. We would like to take a group photo now. So please, thank you. Turn on your camera, please. Thank you. Wow, thank you very much. Thanks for all your joining us to this afternoon. So Vivian, you okay from the side? You do the photograph? So I say 1, 2, and then Flyway. 1, 2, Flyway. Okay, maybe one more. 1, 2, cheese. Thank you very much. So Vivian, it's okay now. Okay, good. So we could go to the next session. So from now, after we watch the video, we'd like to have to give you more about information of the Tern project at this region now. So we are going to have the first reports from our chairman, Seabird Working Group chairman, and also EAAFP chairman, Rob Kaler, about the illusion Tern. Rob is now working in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services in Alaska. Yes, I just mentioned it. He's the chair of the Seabird Working Group and also the EAAFP. And he's interested in developing collaboration towards broad conservation goals that inform management decision and promote seabird conservation. So Rob will tell us about the story of a very, very special terns in this region, illusion tern. Over to you, Rob. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Can you see? Yeah, can you see me? I seem to be having technical struggles today, but anyways, can you see me and can you see my screen?
Very good now. Very good now.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, thank you so much. Very excited to be here and present. So as Tung said, I chair the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnerships Seabird Working Group. I'm also very active with the Pacific Seabird Group. So a lot of what I'll be presenting on today, and I'm based in Anchorage, Alaska in the US, and just a pleasure to be here. So I'll be talking about the Partnership for Aleutian Tern work that we're doing in Alaska. And we're really hoping to loop in our Russian colleagues, because our Aleutian terns nest in the Russian Far East as well. So, and so I do have a lot of partners in this effort and funding support as well. So a big thank you to all of these people. I think so. The Aleutian tern breeds in Alaska and the Russian Far East from May to about August, then migrates south to wintering areas. And those wintering areas are still largely being identified thanks to geolocators, satellite telemetry, similar to the video that we just saw. We're trapping birds and putting telemetry devices on them, as well as the voracious birders of the East Asian Australasian Flyway. U.S. Fish and Wildlife considers the Aleutian tern as a species of conservation concern, and it's an IUCN listed species as vulnerable. Both statuses are largely due to a 2015 publication from Heather Renner. You'll see the citation here at the bottom of the screen. And that helped identify that Aleutian tern. Their effort was really trying to update the Alaska Colony Register that we talked about yesterday, or well, the register for seabirds and the Alaska part of that, and ultimately provided an estimate of an Alaskan population that was approximately 5,000 birds. They also reported that Aleutian terns in Alaska had experienced a rapid decline of over 80% in 3 generations. And so that's what triggered the IUCN listing it as a vulnerable species. And that analysis also identified several challenges while they were analyzing those data, including a lack of formal monitoring, uncertainty in the colony census methods. So the methods weren't necessarily standardized. And because terns can be ephemeral or move between sites between years, there was an inability to assess if birds had moved from declining colonies or colonies that had been determined to be extirpated, meaning they were no longer there, to yet unknown colonies. So, and then lastly, Aleutian terns and Arctic terns are very similar in appearance. And so colonies can be mixed with both species. And so a very common, a big challenge to seabird researchers. as I mentioned, the Pacific Seabird Group, so owing to all of these concerns, the Aleutian Tern Working Group was first convened in 2007, and the species status, to review the species status and then identify potential threats and prioritize projects and actions that we could do for Aleutian terns in Alaska. The working group continued to meet and then was formalized in 2017 as a technical committee under the Pacific Seabird Group. And many people continue to participate, many on this call as well, or on this webinar. And we're led by Susan Olders and Mike Goldstein. They're the two chairs. And they do a tremendous amount of work to help coordinate and communicate. And I think, as Tung mentioned, communication and building that network is really critical for conservation, particularly for terns in this flyway. And so this technical committee continues to expand the Alaska partnership. It also prioritizes international partnerships. So this is a perfect example of what we're doing now. And then try to produce annual summaries of what is known, what are the risks, and what are the stressors for Aleutian terns. And then they also try to publish that information. So here's 3 recent publications on Aleutian terns. And you see that the top one, Heather Renner, again, working with some partners, including Don Lyons, who was in that video earlier, for the globally significant colonies of Aleutian terns. So they worked with our Russian Far East partners on that. So they're doing amazing work, very impressive, and continue just to do conservation work that's much needed for Aleutian terns. So in Alaska, one of our big efforts right now is trying to scale up or expand to a statewide survey. So we know where the colonies are and how many birds are there. We do have some great funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, but the overarching goal is to develop a scalable Aleutian tern colony survey protocol to survey the entire state of Alaska. And Aleutian terns are generally within the first 1 or 2 kilometers of the coastline. So we've been using aerial surveys to locate that, and then coming back using a helicopter or trying to land that airplane on the beach and be able to walk observers over and then do ground counts to come up with a meaningful population estimate. It's been a challenge. We used phase 1, and that's really the aerial reconnaissance. And then within that was 2 strata, so that 2 kilometer area, and then the ground counts. And in addition to that, there's some trapping of terns. So they actually went out, a team of researchers went out this last month in June up to Nome, up in the Bering Strait region, and were able to capture, they had 10 telemetry devices to deploy, and they were able to capture 8 birds. And so they deployed 8 of those. So we're going to be learning a lot. This here is a publication from Mike Goldstein. Mike is one of the coordinators for the PSG Technical Committee for Aleutian Terns in this list here, but showing a geolocator that was deployed on an Aleutian tern. And some of the research, and this is published in Marine Ornithology, but here you see that essentially from Mike's notes, having originated in Yakutat, Alaska, which is kind of over in the southeast part of Alaska, essentially they were able to capture 4 Aleutian terns and deploy geolocators. It was generally about 2 to 3 months of effort to get to the non-breeding sites. So the travel to the Philippines, Papua New Guinea, and Indonesia, that migration took about 2 to 3 months. Birds traveled westward following the Aleutian Islands to Kamchatka with a stopover site in both places, and then southward towards Japan. At that point, the paths diverged. 2 birds continued to Korea, China, Vietnam, and Cambodia, to Java and Sumatra, and 1 settled in the Philippines. And then 1 went from Japan down through the Philippines onward to the Bismarck Archipelago on the southeast side of Papua New Guinea. Birds stayed on the wintering sites for about 6 months, and then in April made their way back rapidly to Southeast Alaska. and the return routes were quicker, pelagic over the ocean, and direct. The long straight lines are the gaps of 15 days, which were removed on either side of the equinox. Those that are familiar with geolocators know about that. And then to finalize, yes, this is actually in a published report, but really great work and really helped identify. Up until then, we had very little idea of where Aleutian terns were spending their winter. And then I'll wrap this up very quickly here. Next steps and future plans. So as we work on our scalable effort to colony or census all the colonies in Alaska, we do have a survey plan. I'm happy to share that with anybody who's interested. We were trying to address some of the aerial survey issues. Detectability from the aircraft was a big concern. And then access to do the ground counts to come up with a meaningful population estimate with 95% confidence intervals was very challenging. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the satellite telemetry study, 8 devices being deployed. Big thanks to the capture team on that. And then, of course, to raise awareness and share information and celebrate Year of the Tern and Year of the Terns. And a big thank you to the East Asian Australasian Flyway Partnership and the Secretariat. And so with that, I'll stop sharing my screen and thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, Rob. Wow, it is amazing. It's amazing. It's always intriguing to see the migration routes of the Aleutian tern. Okay, so we go to the next presentation about the Chinese crested tern by Wang Siyu. Ms. Wang Siyu is a research associate of Zhejiang Museum of Natural History. Now he's mainly working on the Chinese crested tern and the scaly-sided merganser. Since 2014, she participated in the Chinese crested tern projects as a team member. And now, apart from the research work, she's also responsible for many science communication, popularization of the Chinese crested tern. So, Siyu, please.
Okay. Okay, can you see my screen? Is it okay? Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting our team to join this webinar. I'm glad to be here and talk about our work on the Chinese crested tern. We started the project since 2003. This cover photo shows one of our experimental islands. I'd like to share with you as many as I can, so let's hurry up. In the 7 minutes, I'll talk about 3 parts of our work. First is conservation. It needs a lot of things to do it. The second is exploration. We try to review the life of Chinese crested tern. The third part is popularization. It is also very important in the whole conservation project. The Chinese crested tern is critically endangered, and until 2018, the estimated global population of adults is still under 100. Later, I'll use CCT for short. Please don't mind. Now, about conservation, the first question is, where is Chinese crested tern? According to the historical records and the specimens we could find, Zhejiang province is in the middle of its historical breeding area and wintering area. And in 2000, it was found in Mazu. So it's possible that CCT would breed in Zhejiang. From 2003 to 2008, our team searched all the islands in our province, and we found CCT on 2 islands. This is the first island we found in 2004. The isle belongs to Jiushan archipelago. It's very small and steep. And this is the second island. And in 2008, we observed the first successful breeding of CCT. This trick is was the first one. So before 2013, we used the ships of local marine conserve to monitor the island, but that was not enough. The biggest problem is we couldn't know what happened on the island exactly, and we couldn't get information in time. So the solution is sending people onto the island and stay there for the whole breeding season. And for the crested tern, we decided to use the technique called artificial attraction, invented by Dr. Steve Grass. And many thanks to Dr. Daniel Robbie and his team, and also thanks to Simba. They helped us to do it. This is one of the chosen islands. It's small and relatively flat. The yellow part is the attraction area. We remodeled the habitat and set up sound system and decoys. We have to repeat this kind of work every year. We were lucky we succeeded in the first year and every year since then. So the main job on the island is monitoring. We've got blinds and a surveillance system. And the observers have to keep an eye on both crested terns and the threats. These are the main predators to the terns. We can deal with snakes and the rats, but we have no idea about the peregrine falcon. Besides routine monitoring, we also do scientific research, study the life history of CCT, for example, and we also want to know the migration and behavior of CCT, and do some research on phylogeny, sex ratio, hybridization, and the effect of pollution. This is how we do the banding. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with seabird banding. The above shows CCT banded in 2018, and it came back to breed in 2021. So from 2015 to 2021, we banded over 1,000 chicks, and including 17 CCT chicks. We also put satellite trackers on some adults. We hope to put more trackers on CCT in the future. The observation of behavior is also very interesting, but easy said than done. Like this is feeding, but usually difficult to see because parents will lead the chicks down to the edge of island when they are just a little older. And we try to do the diet study as well. This photo shows a hybrid from CCT and GCT. We confirm that the hybrid could also breed. This is a typical hybrid mating, and luckily the percentage of the hybridization is still very low. Every year, there are over 5,000 crested tern gathered on one island. It's becoming a little bit too narrow. So these years, we expanded our breeding area on the islands, and we start to find new islands for them. The third part is popularization of CCT and seabird conservation. From 2009, we tried many ways to do the popularization, like holding publicity activities in schools and communities, or cooperating with local governments, departments, and NGO. We also made exhibitions, both in local communities and in the museum. Mass media, including CCTV, came to the island to report news of CCT, and they made a series of documentaries. This year, we had a live broadcast on one of our islands, and a new documentary film of CCT was released. The photographer Liang Jiede is the one who found CCT in Mazu in 2000. Also, we try to make some books, or at least try to put the photo of CCT on the cover of some book of authority, like this one, a checklist of birds of China. Yeah, this is Chinese crested. And this year, we finished the first picture book of CCT. It's interesting, and I really hope people would buy it. Besides, we also need to make some cultural and creative products. The products are very useful, but we need to find extra money to make them. So after all this work, we can see the population of Chinese crested tern is increasing during the last 20 years. Now we know there are 5 breeding sites of CCT. We keep contact with each other every year. This year, I think the total number of adults could be over 150. Our project gets a lot of help and support from our cooperators, supporters, government, and the public. We are very grateful to them. And thanks to all of you for listening.
Thank you very much, Siyu. You and your teams have done a fantastic job on the very critically endangered species, and also your presentation is excellent, and also very good timekeeping as well.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Okay, yes. Okay, maybe we have a little bit over time, so we please I need to all the presenter to make it quicker, make it shorter. So the next one is my colleagues, John. So let me introduce John to you. So after finishing the MPhil study, John joined our office to do some research work, and he is also responsible for the bird ringing and also Tern study and other citizen science program in Hong Kong. So yes, over to you, John. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me? Is that okay? The audio. Let me share my screen first. Is that okay? Okay. Hi everyone. I'm John from the Hong Kong Birdwatching Society, and with this brief presentation, I'm going to talk about the research on breeding terns in Hong Kong. And here is the content of my presentation. First of all, we give a very brief introductions about the terns in Hong Kong, and some ringing works and tracking works of breeding terns in Hong Kong, and some of our future works we'll do on breeding terns in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong is surrounded by the South China Sea except north, and we are expected to find terns in Ram sites, the Maipo Nature Reserve, and the peripheral commercial fish pond. We're most likely to find some migrating marsh terns, Kadoorie terns, and Caspian terns. And for the islands in the northeast, southeast, and the south waters of Hong Kong, we can find migrating and breeding terns. 12 tern species has been recorded in Hong Kong, and 9 of them are passage migrants or vagrants, as listed in the following. And 3 of them are breeding terns, including the bridal terns with the highest count of about 700 individuals, and the black-napped terns about 600 individuals, and the rosette tern about 500 individuals of the highest count. And we started the ringing of the breeding terns in Hong Kong back in the late 90s and early 2000s. We ringed the bred adults and the pulley on the breeding islands in Hong Kong. And the ring started for about 2 decades, and we launched it in 2017. And we put rings as well as the color flags as shown in this picture for others to give us the reciting reports. We made the flags yellow here with the black natives, and we put it on the tarsus of the terns, and we also put a pink white flag on the tibia of the tern, so that we can have a better understanding where it originated from. And since 2017, the bridal terns, we ringed about 300 of them, and we got 40 recapture of the bridal terns, and about 260 individuals, we attached the leg flags to them for the bridal tern. We also captured a few numbers of the black-napped terns and the rosette terns. And among all the ringed terns, 55 bridal terns were recaptured, or we received the local reciting records, especially for this D0, which was originally ringed back in the 1998 when it was still a pullets, and we recaptured the D0 in the 2018, and we further received reciting reports back in the 2020, and at that moment it was about 22 years old. And the oldest known bridal tern is supposed to be 23 plus years, and if we can recapture or receive any reciting of this D0 bridal terns, it probably to be to break the world record for the oldest known bridal terns in the world. And here we show another bridal tern. It's very unfortunate that we found it dead in the summer of 2018 when we were doing the ringing events on the breeding island, and it was entangled by fishing line. I'll show it here by some fishing lines, and it also shows some threats to the seabirds in our regions. Is that entanglements of fishing line is probably could cause a mortality to some of the seabirds around our region. And for the badnap term, we also got some reciting records. 2 individuals, the W4 and W6. W6 shows here, ringed it in the 2018, and we got the sighting reports. We got a photograph of it in the 2021. We also encourage any reports of any flag terns in the region, so that we can have a better understanding on the migration routes. Yes, and further, we also tracked some terns, competing terns in Hong Kong. The project was funded by the Japan Fund for Global Environment, and we would like to have a better understanding on migration routes of the terns. And in 2019 and 2020, in total, we tagged 4 adult bridal terns using the Argos transmitters. We tagged 2 in the summer of 2019, another 2 in the summer of 2020. But very unfortunately, that all 4 tags failed within months before the migration, probably because due to the broken antenna. But still, we are able to capture some of the local movements or the breeding bridal terns in Hong Kong. And the home range for the bridal terns ranges from about 1,000 kilometers square to 1,600 kilometers squares. And it's interesting to see one individual, the B here in the blue one, is quite the home range is quite different from all 3 others. Bridal terns. It's just like for age in the southern or eastern waters, and maybe there were interaction with other breeding colonies, but in fact we do need more tracking studies to ensure or to know more about our breeding terns in Hong Kong. So yeah, here's some official works we would like to do. We would like to conduct a long-term ringing of the breeding terns, and we now do the ringing annually. And we will also continue to tag some terns, and we are expected to tag the terns maybe later on this month. And finger crossed, and hopefully we can get some useful data, and we can do the work successfully this time. And last but not least is to share with and learn from other partners to conserve the seabirds along the Flyway. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for attention, and I'll stop my sharing.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. You do a great job for me. Otherwise, I do the presentation. Thank you very much. So next one, after we have some information about the marine species, this one, the next one is very special. So now we could, have Mr. Zheng from the Kadoorie Farm and Botanical Garden of Hong Kong to give us some information about the tern conservation in the freshwater habitats. So Zheng is a conservation officer of the KFPG of Hong Kong. He has actively involved in several key conservation projects to minimize biodiversity loss in China and Cambodia, including the conservation of river tern and hornbills. So Mr. Zheng, so over to you. Thank you.
Okay, is it? I hope it's full screen. Okay, thank you. Sorry for my interruption on my internet. I'm Zheng from Kadoorie Farm and Botanic Garden. We are a conservation NGO based in Hong Kong, and I'm very glad to have this opportunity to share our conservation projects on river terns in China. So, okay. Unlike most of these species in today's webinar, the river tern is mainly a freshwater species. So this map actually shows the distribution of the river terns and also the highest counts of the river terns from the Asian waterbird census. So you can see that although the population in the Indian subcontinent is kind of stable, but the population in the Southeast Asia is actually in a precarious situation. And the population decline is quite rapid. So this actually prompted the IUCN to uplist the river terns from near threatened to vulnerable in 2020. In China, Zhejiang County of the Yunnan province in western China is the only site with breeding records of river terns. So when we the river terns are once very abundant in southwestern China, but the population collapsed in recent years. Actually, when we first noticed this species in 2014, there are only 13 individuals reported, and the population kept declining. So we started the project in 2019 in hope to bring this species back to back from extinction in China. The first thing we want to do is to know more about the current status of the river terns in China. So we have organized a systematic survey, and our survey team had covered all the potential habitats in Zhejiang and the surrounding areas. We have surveyed nearly 100 kilometers of river, and but we were only able to find 7 individuals and 3 nests in 2019. And during the surveys, we also identified various threats, which and among that, the biggest one, the biggest threat of all is the hydropower stations in upstream, because the dams actually need to discharge water every now and then especially during the wet season. So the sudden surge in the water volume may quickly overflow the whole nesting site. And when we're aware of this, we immediately organized we approached the hydropower stations in upstream, and we organized meetings with the hydropower company and the relevant government officials. So we are very happy that we could reach an agreement, and we have successfully negotiated a safe water discharge plan during the river tern breeding season. So apart from that, we have 3 nest protectors for each nest, and they are basically like bodyguards for each nest, and they monitor they keep a very close eye on the status of the birds. And we have installed nest exclosures for some of the nest. Those fence is actually they could protect the nest from the disturbance, like buffalo trampling and the predation from the domestic dogs. So after those conservation efforts, the successful breeding in 2019 had increased the population to 13, nearly double the population. And during the same time, we have installed several billboards and major road junctions and beach crossings along the river tern. And we want to make sure the conservation message could reach a wider audience. And we also printed leaflets and calendars for distribution in surrounding communities to raise the awareness of river tern conservation, as well as the wildlife protection laws and regulations. We also organized 2 conservation-themed fun fairs, which are quite popular, and we have attracted more than 500 participants. And we also prepared a storybook, which will be distributed in the schools. So our project has also been reported by both international and domestic media, including Mongol Bay, one of the most influential platforms of conservation news, and also CCTV, China's national TV channel. And since this project is the first study in China for this overlooked species, so we have summarized our findings and published. And I think the result also helped to inform the IUCN authority to uplift the status of the bird from near threatened to vulnerable in 2020. But however, the fate of the river tern is still uncertain. And in 2020, the outbreak of pandemic had interrupted our conservation plans and prevented us from implementing further conservation measures on the ground. And the pandemic also put a very huge burden on our local partners. Many staff from the nature reserve cannot resume their normal work, and they need to support the various disease prevention measures. So without those active conservation measures, the population is not recovering as we expected. But as conservationists, we should always stay positive. And I think we do have some some good news, especially from last year. The first thing is the river tern has been elevated to Class 1 protected in the state key protected wild animal list, which gave this species the highest legal protection status in China. And we had another freshwater tern, the endangered black-bellied tern, and it was found in the river tern breeding site. And this is a rediscovery of this species after 60 years after 6 years in China. So these exciting findings actually suggest that the river tern habitat could support lots of endangered riverine species. And last but not, oh sorry, I should this page. Last but not least, we have the COP15. Which was held in Kunming of Yunnan province. And this event has successfully mainstreamed the biodiversity conservation in Yunnan province, even the whole China. So actually there are lots of things on our to-do list when if the situation proved and we can resume our conservation work on the ground. And the first thing we want to do is to find out the whereabouts of the terns. The river terns only stayed in Zhejiang during the breeding season and then disappeared. So we want to explore the possibility of attaching the tracking devices on the birds. So once we know the whereabouts of during the winter, we could then try to expand our current conservation work to the wintering ground. And another thing is from this map, you can see that the nesting sites from these years are located just outside the current wetland park. So we will try to persuade or at least try to lobby the government to expand the wetland park or to make the nesting site a protected area, at least during the breeding season. So I think this is all I want to share, and thanks for all our partners and donors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Johnsy. Yes, it is also wonderful news to save one of the rarest terns in this region. So the next one is about the black noddy from the Tubbataha. It is another very interesting story from our partners here. So Ms. Retch, Pagliawan-Alaba working on the Tubbataha Reef Nature Park. This is a very important seabird site in our Flyway. So she began working on seabirds in 2013 as a part of her MPhil study, master studies, and restoration of the black noddy population in the Tubbataha is one of the seabird priority projects in the nature reserve. So over to you, Rich. Thank you.
Thank you, Tung. Can you see my screen now? Yeah, okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I'm Retch Alaba, and I'll share with you our conservation effort for the black noddy subspecies versus terry in the Tubbataha Reefs Natural Park in the Philippines. Tubbataha is situated in the province of Pagliawan in the Philippines, and it lies in the middle of the Sulu Sea, so that's the small triangle here. The park is a marine protected area, and it is managed under a no-take policy. It has two uninhabited islets, Bird Islet and South Islet, and both of these islets are off for tourists. So the only ones which can land on the islets are marine park rangers, which are there the whole year round to also survey the seabirds in the park, and also when researchers come, that's the only time that we can actually land on these two islets. Tubbataha is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and an ASEAN Heritage Park. It's a Ramsar site, an important bird area, and we are also a member site of the East Asian Australasian Flyway. Among our 7 regular breeding species, we pay special attention to the black noddy subspecies versus terry because it is endemic in the Sulu Sea, and Tubbataha is its last remaining rookery in the country. In 2017, it has been listed in the Appendix 2 of the Conservation for Migratory Species, and in 2019, the Philippine Department of Environment and Natural Resources listed black noddy as endangered under the national list of threatened fauna. Some of the factors which contributed to the inscription of black noddy as endangered in the Philippines include habitat competition with another 3 nesting species, which is the red-footed booby. We also lost vegetation because of the over-fertilization of trees with bird droppings and also with prolonged drought. And lastly, erosion of the islets, which we observed in the recent years because of strong waves and typhoons. We have been monitoring the population of seabirds in the park since 2014, as you will see in the graph, the green bars are the number of big trees where the black noddy can actually breed. And in general, you will see that the decline, there's a decline in the adult population of black noddy, which follows the decline in the vegetation from 2009 to 2017. So you will see here that the population is really affected by the habitat. This decline coincided with the population increase in another islet. South Islet is a smaller islet in 2010. This may suggest that the birds, which we lost in Bird Islet, just actually transferred a few kilometers south of the park. It has better vegetation then, but in 2014, since 2014, there's been a decline also in the vegetation, which we thought was because the black noddy and the red-footed booby transferred to South Islet. And in 2019, we lost all the vegetation in the smaller islet. So to be able to address this problem, the park management did some interventions. We built temporary nesting structures. As you will see in these pictures, we've tried different designs. Our rangers are really experimenting on them. Since 2017, we've built them in Bird Islet, and we've built those in South Islet in 2019 as well. In the pictures, you will see that initially we used biodegradable materials such as bamboo poles and lumbers, which are immediately available in the province of Palawan. Because of this intervention in Bird Islet in 2017, we saw a 200% increase in the number of black noddy between 2017 and 2018. But as you will see, there's a slight decline since 2019, which is possibly due to the insufficient number of breeding materials because we lost vegetation. In South Islet, they established their territory in July 2019 after the new lighthouse was built in the islet, and the population is gradually increasing in number. Overall, an increase in the population, adult population of black noddy in both islets was observed. It's around 8%. So we're still far from our 2013 population, which is our target. That's around more than 10,000 breeding adults. But we're still trying to do some management interventions. All of the black noddy in Tubbataha now breeds in these nesting structures, but because of the weight of the nest and also the natural degradation of the materials, the bamboo structures have collapsed. You will see a picture in the slide, and so we tried to do structures which are made of steel pipes and also PVC. Among these different designs, we observed that the black noddy prefers the design which allowed for less wind exposure. It's quite windy in Tubbataha. We're very exposed to the monsoons. And so they like to build their nests around the designs which have holes in them. You will see them in the picture, so that the nests are close to each other and there's also less wind exposure. We also provide nesting materials because we lost the trees. They don't have nesting materials. And so we would have to bring grasses and sea grasses and leaves from the mainland to be able for them to build their nests. And also we plant saplings of native trees, and we put bamboo guards. So the picture below, the bamboo guards, we put them around the saplings so that the birds, especially the red-footed booby, could not build their nest on the saplings while they're still young. So we will continue to build these nesting structures, and also to plant the native trees to reforest the islets. In 2006 to 2008, we were able to band more than 2,400 Black Nadi, and it's our dream to be able to install also geolocators and satellite tags on seabirds. We're still looking for funding up to now. And because we would like to know their dispersal and movement patterns when they are not in the park for 4 months in the year. So we are calling those who have experience in seabird rehabilitation efforts such as ours. We would like to also learn from you. And yeah, thank you for EAAFP and the Seabird Working Group for allowing us to share our experiences in the park.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Rich. Yes, wonderful. Also wonderful presentation from you. So yes, next one, I would like to invite Nicholas Carlile of the Australasian Seabird Working Group, Seabird Group, to give us a report about the white terns. Nicholas commenced ecological research with Australian Museum in 1986. And then he also worked with the New South Wales state government, including the island biodiversity restoration and surveys, and also other research in the seabirds and their translocation. Yeah, his main focus on petrel, but he still also work on the terns. So yeah, thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, over to you now. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so my talk today is on the white terns, which is work that I've carried out on Lord Howe Island, which is off the east coast of Australia. And it's work I've done with Terence O'Dwyer as part of our research work with the Department of Planning and Environment. But first, I want to talk to you about at-sea movements and seabird species. While tracking studies have become common for many seabirds in the last 20 years, not all groups have been similarly studied. Within the Laridae family, tracking studies have been attempted on far fewer species than in the Procellarid, where 56 of the 99 species have been tracked. This lack of tracking is particularly evident for tropical and subtropical species. And within the subfamily Sternidae, tracking studies of only 5 of the 25 tropical and subtropical terns have been attempted. So why do we need to do this? Well, it's partly to do with marine parks and seabird conservation. Assessment of species coverage in marine parks usually do not include seabirds, and that's simply because of a lack of tracking studies, migration routes and core utilisation areas. And in this image, in the lower part, you can see Lord Howe Island in red and the marine park network around it and further to the north. Large term breeding populations are particularly important because they enhance terrestrial biodiversity and they drive productivity of local marine systems. So having them not included in marine park coverage assessments is certainly something that we don't want to see happening. Now, Lord Howe Island looks like a tropical paradise, but 100 years ago, black rats arrived. And during that time, they lost 5 species of terrestrial birds from the island. So while it actually looks like a tropical paradise, it's certainly not so a paradise for birds. Seabirds as well have been affected, although none have been made extinct in that period. I'm speaking on the white tern, which has a distribution in the Pacific, the Western Indian and Atlantic Oceans in tropical and subtropical waters. The world population is estimated between 150,000 and 1.1 million, so an order of magnitude difference in the numbers. So we need to get those colony studies up and running so we know whether they occur on islands throughout Southeast Asia. Under the IUCN, it is least concern. It's considered non-migratory, with foraging between 40 and 80 kilometres from a nesting site, and very little is known about at-sea behaviour. So at-sea tracking with loggers, we prepared a really lightweight logger because we were concerned with a 100-gram bird that it might be an issue. And we used a design that was developed in Madeira by Frank Zeno and fellow researchers over there, where we drilled holes in a standard bird band and using stainless steel marine grade wire, we made a cradle which could hold a migrate technology unit. And all up, the whole thing with a 2-year battery was less than a gram. And so certainly for your smaller seabirds, right down to 50-gram birds, this sort of design has very little increased mass for birds carrying them in the field. Now, with fitting them, we actually caught the birds at night. We found that a much easier way to manage the tracking of the birds. But you have to choose your nest wisely. We actually had a similar study site set up on Norfolk Island to do a twin study between the 2 islands, but there they have cats. And so the nearest nests were 6 meters high. And so we had huge extension ladder and 6-meter poles. Having to climb them at night and try and net birds as they got off the nest was quite tricky. So we gave up on that because on Lord Howe, they nest only a metre above the ground, makes much safer work at night. The logger was fitted simply by closing the band. It was a 2-minute operation from catching the bird to fitting the band and releasing it. We fitted 19 units in October 2018 and recovered 7 of these, of which 1 failed to read in 2019. The lack of recovery of most of the loggers was because we'd unwisely chosen birds we thought were breeders at sites. They ended up being non-breeders and so did not return in that year. The loggers were either removed or hot downloaded, where we could actually take data off the logger while it was still on the bird. So interestingly for us, we also were using the light logger capabilities to actually understand a little bit about the behavior of the bird. And this has rarely been done at nesting sites. So at sea, they have full light availability, even though their feet are tucked up under their feathers. When they're at a roost site, like here, the light levels are diminished. And then when they're actually incubating, the logger is almost totally covered. And so light levels are diminished even further. Also, the sites that we chose with these yellow dots on the map, one of them was actually right near the port, where a vessel came in every 2 weeks to load and unload materials. And it would have lights on 24 hours a day for the 2 to 3 days. And we would pick that up on our loggers. Similarly, one of our other sites was right next to a cafe that operated every night, 7 days a week. And so if birds were arriving there during nighttime, we would actually pick up these light spikes. And that indicated presence at night, which was important for us in some of our determination of their behaviours on the island. So what did we actually find? Here are the kernel density analysis of the 6 tracked birds that were successfully downloaded, show the 50 and 95% use, overlaid on the temperate marine parks and the Coral Sea Marine Park. And what we found that 26% of the core foraging was during the breeding season was within the marine park. This is the 50% kernel. And 75% of the foraging during the non-breeding within the marine park and the Coral Sea. And the breeding season movements from Lord Howe Island were up to 1,000 kilometres away while coming back and still breeding on the island. And the non-breeding movements were over 2,000 kilometres away into the Coral Sea. So the migration was a very short, it took 5.3 days for them to travel between the 2 sites. And when they left the actual breeding site, there was a week delay before they actually departed their foraging areas and moved north. Similarly, when they came back to the island, there was a full month from first return on the island until daytime presence. And so if you were studying these birds and only visiting the sites in the daytime, you'd get a very unrealistic size of the population at that time. We used wet-dry data. These loggers had 2 fine pins on them, and every time they entered the water, it gave you a wet-dry signal, and it was summed every 4 hours. And from this, we found peak immersion was around midday, and we assumed this was resting after foraging. At 2.8% of the year, the logger was in contact with seawater, suggesting this bird had a very aerial lifestyle. During the breeding period, 2.4% of their time between August and April was in contact with seawater, and between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., just less than 1.11% of their time was actually in contact with water. Now, some of this would have been while they were on island, but obviously it pointed to the fact that these are very aerial birds even at night. When we look at the non-breeding period, 9.8% of their time was in contact with water, but remarkably between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m., almost no contact with seawater, so a highly pelagic species. From looking at the light level data, it confirmed information that we knew about this species, such as their incubation period was 34 to 35 days. But one of the interesting pieces of information was the amount of time delay between relaying from their first egg, 15 to 51 days. So there's a lot of data that can be gleaned by looking at light levels of individual birds, particularly with surface nesting birds. So altogether with the white tern, it is fully migratory. This is a migratory seabird, and definitely one that would move through vast areas of the East Asian flyway were it to be tracked from other colonies. It is highly pelagic. In fact, only one tropical seabird, the sooty tern, is more pelagic in terms of time spent at sea and also time spent off the ocean. The breeding season provisioning is still unknown without GPS tracking. And the Coral Sea is now known as a core non-breeding site for the Lord Howe Island white tern. And this is an accepted paper by us in Marine Ornithology, soon to be published. I'd like to thank the volunteers, the Lord Howe Island Board, and even though we didn't use our data from Norfolk Island, Parks Australia and people there, as well as Frank Zeno and Manuel Biscoit, who developed the system of attaching the loggers to bands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Wow, the other dimension about tern study in this region, yeah, very inspiring to all of us. So I'm going to invite our last speaker, Professor Wataru Kitamura. Professor Kitamura is an associate professor at Tokyo City University and the president of the NPO Little Tern project. And this project aims on to do the conservation work on the little tern. I am inspired a lot by this project, actually. So Professor Kitamura has a main research area on the conservation biology on avian species, and also giving solution on bird collision with the wind turbines, and also interaction between the aliens and the native species. So yes, over to you, Professor Kitamura. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, I will show you my slides. Can you see? Okay, hello, I'm Wataru Kitamura from Little Tern project, and I'm also teaching conservation biology at the university. Today, I will talk to you about the conservation of little terns on a rooftop colony site in Tokyo. And this is little terns. Maybe you know well about this term because we can see easily this species at all over the East Asia, Australasian flyway. In Japan, they breed in summer and they form colonies with tens to thousands of individuals at one site. They prefer bare grounds like this. It means no grass, and they feed small fish like 10 centimeter long or so. So this photo shows that the parent, maybe it's a male, give a fish to their chick. Which you can see all over the old world. So they are not threatened in the worldwide, but Southeastern population is, Southeast Asian population is decreasing. So they are categorized as a vulnerable species in Japan, and the reason of decrease in number of little terns believed to be changing land use. In the past, we have good coastal areas even near Tokyo metropolitan. This is a map of Tokyo Bay, and you can see the natural coastal lines in the past, but this is a map on nowadays. Landfills are conducted all over the bay. So in the nature, little terns breed on grounds like riversides or the sandy beaches, but they have started breed on artificial bare grounds like car parks like this. Finally, they do not have enough place for breeding, and they started to breed on the rooftop of buildings. This is a rooftop we found at first, and but rooftops are not suitable sites for the terns because eggs are rolling in the wind, and most of them are broken. So like this, we first discovered the breeding of little terns in 2001 and start a project to conserve the terns at first and regularly since then. And we have had meetings with the people from Ota City. Ota City is one of the local area of Tokyo Metropolitan, and the people from Department of Storage, Tokyo Metropolitan Government, because they own their buildings. After the first meeting, we started conservation measures for little terns by scattering the sand on the rooftops with keeping clean by weeding. And we also had predator controls, such as placing the shelters for the chicks to hide from the predators, like crows or kestrels. And we also place decoys for attracting terns with the help of junior high school students as a part of their class. So this is a whole view of our rooftop colony. In the first year, we started the project. And a lot of little terns fly to this side. And how many birds can you see in this photo? And 4 on the right is decoys. And the left 3 birds are true birds. So can you see the birds with the fish? So he comes to propose the decoy birds. So this is kind of disaster. Some birds fell in love with the decoy bird. But this does not happen so regularly. Usually they start laying eggs soon after their arrival. And you can see the eggs here. And after the 3 weeks, they hatched. And they soon can walk around the nest. They are fed fish by their parents. And chicks are growing up, and they can fly in 3 weeks after hatching. And then they go to the southern countries like such as Papua New Guinea or Australia. So we don't have enough time today, so I cannot explain further, but we conducted our project using citizen science way. So for example, we are conducting monitoring surveys with our volunteer people. And we also had migration studies using geolocators, and we have a kind of, we do environmental educations using toys or picture books or so on. This is a final slide, and as a result of monitoring survey, we have found more than 10,000 of little tern chicks hatched at this colony. But number of them are not stable year by year. Now we know many from monitoring with volunteer. These slides of numbers of breeding birds due to successful predator controls for crows, but soon decreasing the numbers because of their crows acclimated to our measures. Okay, so this is a brief introduction of our project. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Kitamura. Yes, I am. When I visited this area, I think I am totally impressed by the number of the little terns on the rooftop. It is really amazing. Okay, thank you very much. We have a very full coverage of the terns conservation work in this region. That's why we are over time now. But I would like to suggest now we could have a discussion session. But I'd like to suggest that we may extend our session a little bit more, because today is just a weekend. I hope all of you could enjoy to stay here and talking with each other. So yeah, we will have a little bit over time. So, and also in the next question, yes, I also have Ms. Yuna Kim from Australasian Seabird Group to help to do the moderation of this session. So after all this presentation, if you have any question about terns or about seabirds to our speakers, please feel free to do it. And also you could do it in the chat room as well. Thank you very much. So Yuna, anything you want to say?
Yes, quite many questions actually already answered by the speakers, but one question was from Francisca to Siyu. She said, love the creative products. Is there a website to see the products? You know, Siyu showed a lot of products to promote Chinese crested tern conservation. I like to know as well, and then maybe purchase some. So Siyu, if you can share the link, that would be great. Wonder whether overseas shipping is available.
Taobao. Yeah, you could shop in Taobao. You just do the shopping in Taobao.
Siyu, you are muted, so I will ask to unmute.
Yes, we've made some products these years, but I'm sorry, they are not on the website, because usually we use these products to make the publicity activities and give them as gifts to the volunteers and other people to join our project. So for now, it's not for selling.
All right. Maybe we should come over to do volunteer and then get the product as a gift.
Yes, we really want to make money from it.
Then I will ask someone else. I saw already Rob answered that. But Rob, I have a question because actually Peter did ask about the method how to survey, and you answered that you will share the protocol with Peter. I noticed a lot of seabird survey, even in the same country or in the same island. Previously, they all do in their own way. How can we standardize this, survey or census methods? Like, how do we achieve? Like, everybody talks about, we need to standardize, but how can we do that?
Yeah, communication right here. This is what we're doing. Exactly. I've chatted with Peter on the side a little bit, direct messaging, but I can share our protocol that's been developed. I'm not the expert. Partners are really leading that, and but yeah, there's I think probably the Australasian Seabird working group. I suppose you guys are doing similar things, but making sure that. And that was one of the challenges for Aleutian terns in particular when Heather Renner was compiling the data, was that the data were not comparable. So yeah, making sure that we're using, and then not disturbing our study species. That was Peter's point as well. But yeah, communication, networking, this is great. We should do this once a month.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, because we had only 7 minutes per speaker. It's just too short to showcase all the work they have been doing for so many years, isn't it? So maybe I actually wanted to ask Rob again in the end, like, what's next? We successfully did this 2 days of work, the talk series. Can we do another one? But yeah, we can discuss that later.
Yeah, Vivian, it's all falls on Vivian and the secretariat. So, but yeah, she's doing a great job. Thank you, Vivian.
That's good. We have another question to, sorry, Kitamura from Wang. He asked, may I know the annual number of little tern is only in the roof or in Tokyo Bay?
Okay, so the number I showed today is only the roof. Only the roof. So maybe we have, but we have not so much little terns in Japan.
Yes.
Maybe it's because of the predators, isn't it? Like they could be maybe feel safer in the rooftop, I guess.
Not so safe because aerial predators come to the colony.
Okay, we have a Peter raised hand. Would you ask Peter?
Hi, yes.
Directly?
Having listened both yesterday and today, and I appreciate that the nature of what you're presenting, but nobody really seemed to mention the prospect of global change and how we might anticipate that reality, because it will be a reality, in the way we're going about setting up the monitoring programs. I mean, coastal erosion, wave surges, certainly affect terns in other parts of the world. And it seems to me that we need to also have that thing of upcoming threats, rather than to have them to think about those in our planning, rather than just what's on the spot now.
who wants to answer that? I think
Yes,
Nicholas.
Yeah, I'm happy to say something on that. We have approached that in New South Wales by removing feral animals from all our offshore islands. So we have no more feral animals on our offshore islands. So that is one way we can safeguard sites for birds. But the problem that you have in those situations is once you remove feral animals, then you often have weed species which run rampant, and they can destroy the very habitat you're trying to protect. So the big issue is once you've created these new habitats, to follow it up with good on-island management, but finding those long-term funds is quite difficult.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I mean, I'm well aware of your work on global change and seabirds. So, yep, thank you. I think, as you pointed out, it's a complex issue and it's multidimensional, and many things that have to be brought into account at the same time. All my point was just, we perhaps shouldn't ignore that in all of the areas within this region. Thank you.
We have another question to Nick. This is from Vivian. As light pollution is a threat to seabirds, would the data logo you used, which is sensitive to detect light, good for the study of the impact of light pollution to seabirds or migratory birds in general, please?
That's pretty tough, because the way we were using the light sequence on the loggers was when we knew that the birds were ashore, we would get dry periods, and so know that they were actually ashore in the trees, and so we could actually discern behavior. Whether they would be useful for determining light pollution, I'm not sure. Certainly with tracking I've done of seabirds, I've done many species, you find, when they're flying at night, you get light spikes, and they're 3 or 4 months away from being on their islands, and they've obviously flown close to a ship or to some major light source at sea. But I'm not sure how well that would go. It's certainly something to look at. I think that's a really interesting area. But the problem with light and seabirds, it mostly it certainly can impact fledglings, and you don't tend to track fledglings because you don't get your loggers back and say you blow your money. So that would be quite tricky to actually discern what was going on if you were putting them on fledglings, which are highly impacted by light sources close to breeding colonies.
Thank you. Because there's, here's another question came. So this is to Kitamura again. How many students are involved for the project? Any changes in attitude both to students and community after engaging in the conservation project? If time is allowed, can you elaborate more how the crow threatened the little tern? So many questions here and planning to help the situation in the coming future. Thank you.
Okay, so the number of students involved in the project is maybe 10 to 12 students yearly. It's a kind, yes, so maybe I think so. So, and we want to know that their changing attitude for the nature, but we don't have any data about that. But I hope they change their mind when they do such kind of things. And what is the final one? About the crow?
Crow, yeah.
And the crows eat both eggs and chicks. So now we try to have a lot of commercial counter crow items. So we now think about we use one items, and then after they acclimated to the item, we use another one, and then now we are thinking to change the items year by year.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to interrupt a little bit. And also we are the Seabird working group of EAAFP is also like to see how to make more content, more connection with all of you. So we are now going to share the Google form. If you want to become the members of the Seabird working group, please fill the form and send it to us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And then also there's a news article shared by Yumi Sim. She said the population of little terns in Nakdong River in Korea is like record high in 9 years. So it would be important to see the, like multiple population and see the trend, maybe one is declining, but it might not be true declining. And, the other areas is actually increasing. So yeah, it's really important to look at, the globally, basically. I actually had a question to Retch. When you designed, this artificial nesting site, what factors did you consider? I think obviously to prevent, the big like red-footed boobies and other things, you wanted to probably have the gaps between the logs, tighter. Like, would you explain a little bit more about, the structure, please?
Yeah, so as you will see in my slides, we have really different designs. We did not have a model to start with. And so as you mentioned, we were very specific with the distance of the bamboos. And it was basically an experiment. We tried a design that looks like this, but then it did not work because the red-footed booby could still occupy the logs because it was diagonal. What worked for us, we think, were those with the central poles, and then the logs would go outside from center to going out, and that worked because we think when we designed those structures, we were thinking of mimicking the trees. It was quite hard, and so in the end, we saw that they wanted to build their nest close to each other. I think that's very important because that's how we also observed them build their nest when we still had those trees. And it was very important that to note that they were building the nest like inside the trees. When we had those trees initially, it was quite hard to count the nest of the black nod because then you have to really go in to be able to count them. So yeah, we're still trying to see other options.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Yuna.
We have a question from Vivian to Zheng regarding looking for more sites of river terns in Yunnan, which is very popular to bird watchers. Would it be possible to collaborate eco-tour companies for exploration, please?
Thanks for the question. Actually, yes, that is a kind of flagship birds for the birders, but I think it's a very good approach to involve those king birders. But the problem is that based on our experience, the Yunnan has been explored extensively by the birders from both domestic and internationally. And I think because the population is now the number is so low, so I think it would be maybe a very disappointing trip if we promote it, if we use the river tern as a promoting like stars. Yeah, but it's definitely I think it's better a very good advice. Actually, I mentioned in my PowerPoint the black belly tern, which is much more rare than the river terns, and it was actually discovered by birders. And then the birders is actually go to the Zhejiang to take photos of the river terns. So there's a lot of potentials of those eco tourist companies. They could be a very useful like citizen science, like they could discover lots of the potential threatened birds for us.
Thank you. I have a quick question. I'm very naive because I'm dealing with a lot of pelagic seabirds, so I don't know much about river terns. Do they like found only exclusively along the river, or can they, be found along the coast as well?
They're mainly freshwater species, and as the name suggests, they can mainly be found in rivers. But in India and in Cambodia, they can also be found in big water bodies like reservoirs. And it's very interesting, actually, in Cambodia, it's mainly resident species, but in Cambodia, they study find that they breed in the same bouts of rivers. But during the winter, they go to the big water body like reservoirs. So I think it's quite interesting, especially for us to know where the whereabouts of these species in the winter time, because for China, we find that the birds only stays in the China side. We suspect you may go to the Myanmar side during the winter, and you may experience some problems in the winter time. So that's why we were very eager to adopt those tracking devices like maybe geolocators or satellite tracking devices to find whereabouts of the river terns.
Yeah, very interesting. I have a question for John. If no one's asking questions, I'm just gonna keep asking. But I have a question to John. So you said the satellite tags failed after a few months. Have you considered other type of tracking devices? Because like Rob and Nick used geolocators successfully. Have you thought about other way?
Yeah. I think we got similar studies. I think should be on conference, or I think Tung could provide more information, because other similar studies used these ARGOS transmitters to track the terns and was successful. However, we failed multiple times for the bridal tern. We don't know why. And this year we also got 4 tags for the bridal terns, and we modify to strengthen the antenna, so we hopefully can get the results. And for the geolocators, this is a bit tricky for us, because we have to, recapture the birds so that we can get the data, right? But it is quite impossible for us to work on that remote island and get the recapture of the birds. It is highly unlikely for our situation, so we did not consider the use of geolocators for the bridal terns in Hong Kong.
Thank you. It's 5:43. Shall we wrap up, or shall we continue? I have so many questions, so no problem continuing, but I think it's a few people left. So
maybe before your question, so like to see any other participants would have more questions. Yeah, please feel free. And otherwise, I could also let Vivian to do some other promotion as well. So yes. Vivian, you can get ready. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Vivian, you could do that.
Okay. Thanks, Tung. Thanks, Yuna, and thanks to our great speakers for today. So inspiring. I can also keep asking questions to the speakers as well. But yeah, maybe we can have another event later on. But here, thanks for the time for staying. And I would like to promote the another campaign activities for the Year of the Terns, which is the photo contest, and it's open to everyone in our Flyway. So from May, within this year, if you take photos of the Year of the Terns, please join us. And the prize was, we have sponsorship from the Swarovski. You can win the prize of binoculars, and Patagonia also also sponsored us. We also have other exciting prizes, and the materials are also translated into different languages: Chinese, Japanese, Korean, yes, and Indonesian. So you can go to the websites and then join the photo contest, and please also share them out your network. And then next, I think that's all. Please keep on to follow us, and we are bringing you every month different news about and introducing terns, different species of terns in our flyway.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. And also, yes, I think last time, any more question? One question. What, any more? Yes, I think we may still have some question in the chat box. Perhaps we will sort it out later with the emails as well. So okay, thank you very much for all coming. Just I have a few words before we leave here. So I'd like to give you some take-home message for this for today and also for this event. Thank you very much. Thank you for all your participation. I think many of us would know seabirds are still quite under appreciation and under our attention in these regions. That's why we need to do something to promote them. And then this is the aim of this event. And we are also building a network of seabird researchers and conservationists in this flyway, in the East Asian Australasian flyway. Through the framework of the EAAFP. So I just already left the Google form in the chat room. If you are interested to join us, to stay together, to work for the seabirds together, please do fill the form and then send it to us. And terns are just the first step for us. I am so glad to get many attention from all of you. We still have the other seabird group that we should work together. Storm petrels, shearwaters, booby, albatross, a lot of them. They are still waiting for us, and they are also waiting for our attention as well. So I hope we could develop something to work on the other seabird group as well. Yes, last one. I think the last word I try. Yeah, maybe I'll repeat it already. We try our best to encourage international collaboration for better research and conservation activity under the framework of the EAAFP, because we think that is the way for us to protect our terns and seabirds. So I think that's it. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your joining participation, and also you all also inspire us to work more. I'm sure we will arrange the other seabird webinar in the coming future, because I think we still have many things we haven't touched. We have so many topics we haven't touched. So yeah, keep in touch. I'd like to see many of you in the next time, and also would like to see more of you in the field as well. So that's it. That's it from me. Thank you very much. Vivian, any other housekeeping or any message from you, from the Secretariat?
No, that's all. We will record this webinar and edit it on our YouTube channel, so you can share this with the others. And please fill in the form and give us some feedback.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody will have a chance to see the film as well. The short film we show in the beginning. Yes, I will let you all know later. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Happy World Seabird Day.
Yes, tomorrow. World Seabird Days.
Let's go look at some seabirds.
Yeah.
I'm on my way. The boats are in the water. I'll see you guys
Okay,
later.
okay.
Good luck with your field trip, Prof.
Yeah, and big thanks to the Secretariat for hosting this. You guys are great.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
everybody.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Like to meet all of you in person later on. Yes. We must have a meeting. Yes. Thank you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.